Hey groupers, Pastor Marshall here. And the next step in Core 52, pretty complicated subject, election, predestination. Maybe you're not on the same page with your spouse on this. Maybe you're not on the same page with your mom and dad, your brother and sister. Maybe you're not on the same page with some close Christian friends. What is something in your everyday life that you see very differently from someone who is very close to you? Maybe a spouse, maybe a parent, maybe a child, maybe a brother or sister, a best friend. What's something that you see differently than they do? And how do you manage unity and love in the midst of this difference, this division? Well, the story of Saul becomes Paul, his calling, Acts chapter 9. It's recorded 3 times in the book of Acts. It's a major story in the Bible. Some people call it the most important conversion in the Bible. Have you ever behaved like Saul religiously before he meets Jesus and he's persecuting people? Have you ever gone on a witch hunt? I guess that's what I'm asking. Have you ever gone on a religious witch hunt? What did that look like? How do you imagine that this visit of Jesus looked like? What was it like? What do you imagine it was like for Saul? What do you imagine it was like for his companions? What do you imagine it was like from Jesus' point of view? Just try to look at this from different angles and just share how you imagine it in your mind. How can Saul be persecuting Jesus? Jesus says that he's persecuting him. How can Saul be persecuting Jesus if he is risen Lord in heaven? What in the world is Jesus talking about? What has God done in your life to make sure you had an opportunity to respond to him? He clearly makes sure that Saul has an opportunity to respond to him. What has he done? What did he do in your life to make it very clear that you needed to respond to him? Have you ever battled a major spiritual battle or a physical illness that made the world stop, like Saul's world stopped? How long did that battle go on for? What did it look like? How did you handle it? Saul fasted and he prays for 3 days. What was it like for you when you were going through a major spiritual or physical battle? What would it be like to be in Ananias' shoes in this story? Jesus gives him a pretty big task to go and to talk to this bloodthirsty persecutor. What would it like to be in Ananias' shoes? And what can you uniquely do to bring the glory of God through your life? What can you do to bring the glory of God through your life? What were you called to do? Ananias is called to show God's glory to Saul. What were you called to do? Saul is called to show God's glory to the Gentiles. What were you called to do? And then finally, what is significant about the first words and the first actions of Ananias when he meets Saul? Well, every week I just challenge you to think about your application, whatever day of the week it is that you're in Bible study, and just maybe if you haven't accomplished your action yet, that you would accomplish it. This week, I'm challenging you to think about one area in your life that God is calling you to follow him, and you are resisting him. In the account of Saul's conversion later, it adds that Jesus said to him, "Why are you kicking against the goads?" This image of a ox that was in a plow, a young ox, and he didn't want to be hooked to the plow, and so he would kick against it, and they put that sharp stick there. And well, God calls us and we resist. Ananias resisted. Saul was resisting. What is something that God is asking you to do right now and you are resisting? Well, I hope that you have a great group. Look forward to seeing you next Sunday as we continue our walk through Core 52. Next week will be week 25. We're almost halfway. God bless.